Debutantes, it's time for another episode of Don't Get PinStressed. This project actually was sent to me by my girlfriend Lori. She sent it to me in a message and then I did see it on Pinterest, so I don't have an exact pin to show you, but this was inspired by Pinterest. So this is what we're going to be making. It is a piece of reclaimed lumber with some scrap fabric and some scrap trim, and it's basically a torn fabric cross is what I call it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we make this and show you just how simple it is. You could even do this with your children. It is that simple. So let me show you how to get started. All right, well, let's talk about what you're going to need for this project to get started. First thing you're going to need is a piece of scrap wood, rectangular, because this side needs to be shorter than this side, so you make the cross. You're going to need a choice of fabric for your cross, some trim to make the center part, some more little notions. I'm going to use some buttons to decorate the center part. You're going to need some way to hang it if you are choosing to hang it. I have the Command damage-free hanging like Velcro strips or a sawtooth hanger. You're going to need some string, a glue gun, and a glue stick. And the hammer is only if you are going to use the sawtooth hanger to hang it. So these are all the things that you will need. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you need to measure how much fabric you're going to need for the size wood you have. This piece happens to be 14 inches by like 7 3/4, but that's not super important. What you want to do pretty much is measure your wood, take the tape measure to the back because you want the fabric to overlap just a little bit. So I think I'm going to need 32 inches of length because I want to be able to double, which I'll show you how to finish off the edges. So 32 inches long, and then I'm just going to do the same exact thing to the side. And I think I'm going to need about 18 inches. See, that way it will overlap itself. So then I need to decide how wide I want my strip. I'm thinking I'm going to want it about 3 inches wide. So if I just do this, it's about 7, so 3 inches would give me a pretty good size fabric cross. I may go 3.5 inches. That would make it about that. So I think I'll do 3.5 inches. So 3.5, what did I say? I already forgot the measurement. Like 32. So 3.5 by 32. So that's the strip I need to cut my fabric right here. Now, when you use a cotton fabric, it has a natural weave to it. I think I've shown you all this in a video once before. Let me see how much this fabric I have. So I needed 32 inches. So I have a little bit more than 32. All I'm going to do is go down here to my 32 inch mark on my fabric. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to put a little notch right there. And I'll show you why I'm going to make that notch in 1 second. So right where that notch is, I'm then going to measure 3.5, I don't know if you can, 3.5 across right there. Now this doesn't have to be, don't worry about being completely perfect with your measurement. This is pretty much just a guideline. And at here, I'm just going to put a little notch in my fabric. If I can make it work. Right to, without cutting my finger off. Okay, so now I have a little notch at the 3.5. Now, to make a nice straight cut, you're just gonna tear the fabric and it's gonna go right to that 3.5 inch mark. I'm just gonna remeasure to make sure I can find the end of the tape measure. So 3.5 would be right here on this red line, which I love lined fabric. It's so easy to measure. I'm going to make another notch right there. Just a little, I mean, it's not that much of a notch, you can see. And then I'm just going to tear it and it's going to give me a nice straight, just like that. Ta-da! So now we have our first piece of fabric to go on your cross, which will go like this. I'm going to show you all the steps. So that's our first piece. So now our second piece, I have to decide, do I want the pattern to go this way or do I want it to follow the same as this? And I think I want it to go, I'm not 100% sure. I think I want it to go the same way. So which means I'm going to have to long ways this way. What was that measurement again? 18 inches. I remember now. So 3.5 by 18. So let's do our 3.5 measurement, which is about, and I'm just going to keep tearing this. Like I said, this is not rocket science. And I'm just going to tear the whole thing and then measure it, because I'll probably be making more of these crosses. So now we have our 2 pieces to make our cross. So now you can iron this if you want to, but I like the rusticness of the fabric, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to take our first piece of fabric, put it down. This is the back side. And now you could measure to make sure it was straight, but we all know I'm not big on like perfect measurement. I just eyeballed to have the same distance between, you know, here and here. So now what I'm going to do is take my glue gun. I'm just going to put some glue right across there. I'm not being super perfect. And then I'm just going to glue that down. Done. So easy. So now I'm going to pull this up here, but we want to make sure that is nice and straight on this side. So I think that's good and straight. And I'm just going to flip this back over. So now you see where this is going to overlap. I want to put a little bit of glue here, and then I'm just going to fold that so the edge is nice and clean. We don't have a raw edge for strings to go everywhere. Again, this is not rocket science. Do not burn yourself. And there we have a nice clean edge. This isn't a must-do step. I just think it, you know, keeps it nicer, especially when you're storing it. It won't get snagged on anything. So now I'm just going to pull it nice and tight, line that up to the best of my ability, and just put some more glue right there on your nice finished edge. And pull it nice and tight and lay it. And so that is our first step. So now I'm going to flip this back over. Now where I want the cross piece to go, so here's my cross piece. I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I think I want the cross piece to go. I think that looks good. So right up underneath here, I'm just going to gather this like that. And this is where I should have had my string already cut. I'm going to take a piece of string, about 8 inches long. Again, this isn't imperative. I'm going to slide it underneath that fabric, and I'm going to gather it. Now I want my ends to kind of be the same, so I'm tucking them in here, and I'm just going to tie this in a knot. Fixing my edges, and see how it does that nice gather right there. And I'm going to tie it in just a regular old knot. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to leave that just like this, because I'm going to use the same thing to tie the other side. So I'm just going to take this piece right here. I'm going to lay it across. I'm going to try to line up those red lines. It's not like super important. I just think that looks nice. Wrap it around just like before. Glue it. So since I hadn't cut this before, I'm just going to give this a trim. Finish the raw edge just like before. Fold that without burning yourself. This is why I have a dual temp glue gun, so I don't burn the snot out of my fingers. Just put the glue on here, put that down like so. Now if I had planned better, I could have made this back look a little nicer, but you're really not going to see the back, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, so there we have the front. Now you still see we have our strings right here. So now we want to gather this piece. Take your string, you're going to tie it into a knot. And now pretty much your cross is done. If you like the way the string looks, by all means, you can leave the string. You could tie that in a bow and you could be done except for your hanger. But I want to add like a pretty medallion in the middle. So let me cut a piece of this and show you how I'm going to make that medallion. I'm just going to trim those strings and then we will get started on our next step. Okay, so I have got the string almost all the way through, and I did end up putting a little piece of scotch tape on the end, and I just went every other hole and just strung that through. So now that I have it pretty much as long as I want, all I'm going to do, or what I also did was I put a little tiny bit of scotch tape on the bottom to hold the end, so as I pulled it didn't come out. So now what you're going to do is pull this and it's going to gather just like that. But now what you want to do is kind of make a little rosette. Let me see if I can get my fingers out of the way. Like so. So there's pretty much a rosette. I'm going to trim this off and tuck it in and glue it. But pretty much now you have your rosette for the middle. So what I think I'm going to do, so I'm going to put a little dab of glue right here on the string where I want my gather to be, just so it holds. I'm just going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to trim my lace a little bit past that point that I just glued, so that I can then glue my ends together to make the rosette. So there you go. So let's see if I can finish this off for you. I'm just going to take this one finished end. I'm going to put some glue on that and then just glue the other end to it. Now this is, you know, obviously lace, so be careful you don't burn your fingers. And then I'm going to take this side and just glue it, making sure the ends are kind of matched up right there. Squeeze it together. And I'm going to trim this string. You won't see any of that once you finish. So there is the center. Now you could be finished right here, obviously, after you glue this, but I want to add a little bit more interest. So I have this one old vintage button that I'm going to put right here, and then I have this real pretty navy button, but it has a thing on the back. I think that's called a button hank. I don't know if you can see, focus. But anyway, I'm going to get my needle nose pliers and I'm just going to hack that off. So let me do that and then I will show you how I glue it all together. I figured I'd go ahead and show you how I just trim this little metal piece off. I have my little nippers. These are cutter pliers. Now obviously away from your face, if you have some glasses, this would be a good time to put them on. And I'm just going to kind of work that off of there with these pliers. If your pliers are better, it will come right off. So this one is going to take me a second. There we go. I kind of pulled it right out, no problem. So I'm going to glue this down, glue this there, and then glue this on top, and I will show you what it looks like when that's done. All right, so pretty much we are done with this craft. The only thing we have to do is decide how we want to hang it or if we want to just prop it up. How I glued the cross, the medallion in the center, is I just put a big glop of glue in the middle and pushed this down and did the same thing with the button and the same thing with the blue button. As you can see, the detail right there. So, and I didn't like sand this or anything, pretty much just use some scrap fabric, some scrap trims, and we're good to go. So if you want to put a hanger on here, if you use the sawtooth, you just have to measure where the center of your board is, and then you just put the 2 nails and you're good to go. These are super easy and really great for lightweight things. Just read the directions if you choose to buy these. They sell these at Target, they sell these at Home Depot, they sell these all over. I do use these quite frequently. So there you go. All right guys, here is our finished project. I just hung it up on the wall inside. I was trying to film outside. It hung up really pretty on a vintage gate, but it is so loud that I figured you'd rather just see it inside than hear all of that noise. So here's our finished project. You could leave this up year round, obviously, but because it's red, white, and blue, I would probably put it with my 4th of July decor. I also wanted to show you this one that I made a while ago. It's on a little bit of a thicker piece of wood, but I used this real pretty yellow fabric, and the center is a lace medallion that was in my grandmother's sewing stuff, and just another button. So we have this one as well, so don't think you're limited by your fabric choices. I will use this in my Easter decor, so I will show you that when I decorate for Easter. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Don't Get Pinstressed. Please let me know if you do this project. I always love to see your finished projects. You can show me on Facebook, you can show me on Instagram, any social media really. I like to comment. So please subscribe if you have not, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!